Mexico is demanding compensation from a famous YouTuber and a production company, accusing them of exploiting country's ancient Mayan sites for commercial purposes. Actually, what happened? Now let's deep dive into this AI podcast.
Okay, let's dive straight into the buzz around MrBeast's latest YouTube video. The one called I Explored 2,000-Year-Old Ancient Temples.
Yeah, that one. Huge numbers, right? 60 million views in just the first week. That's massive reach.
Absolutely massive. But this exploration, filmed at those amazing Mayan sites down in Mexico, it's actually stirred up quite a bit of controversy. A serious issue with the Mexican government, actually.
And what's really interesting here, I think, isn't just the view count. It's this clash, this friction when you get huge digital influence meeting really significant cultural heritage.
Right.
So the core of this deep dive for us is to understand what the Mexican government is alleging. Basically, that the filming permits were misused for commercial gain, and maybe more fundamentally, that it misrepresented the history of these places.
So we want to get past the headlines, figure out what's really going on.
Exactly. Get to the heart of it.
Okay, so the video itself, it shows MrBeast, his team, exploring Calakmul and Chichen Itza, incredible Mayan ruins.
And these aren't just any ruins. We're talking UNESCO World Heritage Sites, globally important places.
Definitely. Now, our understanding is that they did get filming permits, right, for these specific locations.
That's correct, yeah. The records indicate that Full Circle Media, that's MrBeast's production company, they got official permits. And crucially, that included approval from IMAH, the National Institute of Anthropology and History in Mexico, the main body overseeing these sites.
Got it. So permits were issued, but,
and this is the key point, the Mexican government is now saying those permits were strictly for non-commercial filming. They argue it didn't cover using the sites for advertising or, leveraging the heritage for marketing.
Okay. So the type of filming allowed versus what ended up in the video, that's the sticking point.
That's pretty much the ignition point for this whole thing, yeah.
And part of that seems to center around a chocolate bar.
Yes, the chocolate bar. This is where that tension really comes into focus. There's a scene, right, where MrBeast is promoting his own chocolate brand.
He calls it a Mayan dessert, I think.
Exactly, and tells viewers, go buy it. So the Mexican officials' argument is, this turns a priceless cultural site into a commercial backdrop.
Using history to sell snacks, essentially.
That's how they see it. They argue it violates the terms of the permit because it's commercial profit tied directly to the image of the site.
Okay, that's a pretty clear accusation. What's the response from MrBeast's side on that specific point?
Well, his representative has pushed back a bit. They clarified that technically no advertising was filmed inside the zones managed by INAH.
So not actually in Calakmul or Chichen Itza itself.
Right. They claim the chocolate promotion scene, that specific bit, was shot at a separate campsite nearby, not on the archaeological grounds.
Okay, so it's a distinction based on physical location versus the overall video content.
Precisely. You've got the government looking at the overall message associating the product with the heritage sites in the final video, and MrBeast's team focusing on where the cameras were rolling for that specific promo part.
Interesting distinction. So it's about context and association versus the literal filming spot. Now, moving beyond the commercial side, there are also claims about the video misrepresenting the sites themselves.
Yes, and these are serious too. This touches on authenticity, historical accuracy. INAH, the Institute, has specifically called out some scenes they say are misleading.
Pick what?
Well, two big ones. One scene apparently shows a helicopter landing at a pyramid.
Landing on a pyramid. Wow, okay.
Yeah, and another involves handling what's presented as an actual ancient pre-Hispanic mask.
And INAH disputes these.
Strongly. They put out an official statement. They called these depictions false assertions.
False assertions. Meaning...
Right, created purely for dramatic effect for the show. They explicitly stated no real ancient artifacts were handled during filming.
Okay.
And those scenes, the helicopter, the mask, INAH says they were heavily edited, designed to be sensational, basically.
So it's not just about the commercial angle, but about maybe fabricating parts of the experience, distorting the reality of the sites?
That seems to be INAH's core concern here, yes. It's about the integrity of how these historical places are portrayed.
Right. So how has the wider Mexican government responded? Has it gone beyond INAH?
Oh, yes, significantly. It indicates how seriously they're taking this. The president, Claudia Sheinbaum, has actually called for a full investigation.
An investigation into what?
Into how the permits were granted in the first place. which suggests, concerns right at the top about maybe procedures weren't followed correctly or maybe the rules need tightening.
That's major. Any other officials weigh in?
Yes, the Secretary of Culture, Claudia Curiel de Icaza. She came out very strongly against the video's portrayal of the archaeological treasures.
And what did she say specifically? It sounds like she wasn't holding back.
Not at all. She basically said, quote, "We disapprove of any commercial pursuit that distorts the value of archaeological sites, which represent the enduring legacy of our indigenous cultures and are a source of immense national pride." She really emphasized the difference between genuine educational promotion, which Mexico supports, and what they see as manipulation for commercial benefit. She also mentioned the possibility of sanctions.
Sanctions. Against who? MrBeast.
Against Full Circle Media. That's the production company that actually got the permit. So administrative sanctions are on the table.
So real consequences could be coming for the company involved. Okay, let's flip back to MrBeast's team. How are they framing all this, especially given these strong reactions?
Well, it's interesting. If you look at the description under the YouTube video itself, it actually thanks the Mexican government and tourism agencies for their support. And like we mentioned, their representative stated the intent was positive, to showcase and celebrate Mexico's Mayan heritage for, his massive global audience.
So disconnect there between the stated positive intent and how it's been received by the authorities.
Seems that way, yeah. The representative also expressed hope that maybe this whole controversy could lead to some constructive discussion about how to respectfully engage with cultural sites going forward.
A learning opportunity, perhaps.
Yeah, potentially. They also described the situation as unfortunate and, interestingly, suggested it might be somewhat political.
Political?
Yeah.
Implying maybe the government's reaction has other motivations beyond just the video content.
That seems to be the implication, yes. That there might be other factors at play in their strong response.
Okay. So we have these two quite different narratives playing out. What does this whole episode signal about the bigger picture? What are the broader implications we should maybe think about?
Well, if you zoom out, this whole situation really highlights a tricky area, doesn't it? It's right at the intersection of huge online content creation, massive influencer power.
Like MrBeast, with hundreds of millions of subscribers.
Exactly. And then you have deeply important cultural heritage and the need to protect it.
It forces us to look at that balance, right? Between promoting tourism, using these amazing sites to draw attention, and the absolute need to preserve them and respect their history.
It's a really delicate balance because these aren't just pretty backgrounds, are they?
No, definitely not.
They're packed with cultural meaning, integral to Mexico's identity. And this incident, I think, really underscores the responsibility that comes with having such a massive online platform. How even projects that might seem well-intentioned can cause significant issues when they interact with sensitive cultural heritage.
Okay, so let's try and pull the threads together. We've looked at this controversy around MrBeast's Mayan temple video. Sharp criticism from the Mexican government. The main complaints are about using filming permits for commercial stuff, like that chocolate promotion, and also about misrepresenting the sites, the helicopter, the mask, through editing and maybe staging.
Right. And we've seen the government's strong reaction, calling for investigations, potential sanctions, and then MrBeast's team's side, saying the intent was positive, thanking the government in the description, but also calling the situation unfortunate, maybe political.
Two very different perspectives on the same event.
Definitely. And it really leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty big question to chew on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In this age of instant global online content, how should countries balance showing off their incredible cultural heritage with protecting its integrity? Protecting it from being misused commercially or just misrepresented?
That's a tough one.
And maybe also, what role do the creators themselves play in this? And what about us, the viewers? What's our responsibility in how we engage with this kind of content that mixes entertainment with real-world heritage?
Did MrBeast and his production company violate the terms of filming permit by promoting a commercial product using footage of a cultural heritage site? Comment it. Thanks.